Hey y'all, this is Preston here again, of course, with the Barely There channel, here with another review for you. This is Jumanji, the next level. But first, let me just say that so sorry the channel's been kind of slow going. Been a lot of changes in both mine and my fellow Hardly Here correspondent David Lee Harvey's life. But yeah, we are keeping the channel alive, guys, because we love reviewing movies. And quick thank you to all of the 20 some odd people who are still subscribed and still listening to our stuff. We really highly appreciate it, very much so. I actually have a bunch of new content that he and I recorded. We actually did a top 10 best and worst movies of the past decade, and I've actually been working the past week or so editing down those vids, those voiceovers, really long stuff, really good content in there. And we actually reviewed a couple other movies that have come out recently too as well. So I've got a bunch of new content. I hope to kind of make this a pretty consistent thing again. Because like I said, we just love talking. We love reviewing movies. And it seems like a few people out there seems to like it too. So we really greatly appreciate it. But yeah, without further ado, why don't you guys take a listen to our review of Jumanji, the next level. Hey y'all, this is Preston here again, here at the Barely There channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. I think this is our first review of the year for the new decade, 2020. And we're here to review the movie Jumanji Next Level. With me here, almost as always, is David Lee Harvey. How are you doing tonight, David?
Crazy car. Do 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 do. You remember that one?
I do not. I do not. What?
You don't remember that one? Alex Wolf and Nat Wolf, Naked Brothers band? No.
No, I do not.
All right, guys, I'm doing great. It's good to be here. All right. Hey.
Nerd. Naked Brothers band. What are you talking about, Nickelodeon? All right, so we're here to talk about Jumanji, the next level. I'm glad you're doing good, David.
Great.
Great. From that. I do remember that show. I never watched it. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, we're here to review this movie, Jumanji, the next level. I just saw this movie just a few days ago. I believe, David, you saw it a few days before that. Just a real quick backstory. This is technically the third installment within the Jumanji franchise. The first one being, of course, back in the 90s with the late, great Robin Williams. And then we had just literally 2 years ago, we had the Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, which I believe, David, both you and I liked like a fair amount. Like I thought it was surprisingly good for what it was.
It's like a fresh drink of water, you know?
It was fresh drink of water. It was a new twist. Yeah, I think most people know here on the channel, like I'm not a huge fan of these reboots, remakes. But I thought for this one, for what it was worth and for what they did, I thought it turned out decent. And I was surprised. And I remember leaving the theater thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind too much if they made another one. Turns out I did. So we're here to review the next level. Almost the same kind of scenario as the first movie we have. Side joke. We have our main characters here. We have Spencer, Fridge, Martha, and Bethany. These kind of high school kids who just recently graduated high school and kind of moved on with their lives from the first movie after surviving accidentally being transported into the magical video game that is now Jumanji. That experience kind of brought them closer together. However, life events, for the most part, the majority of the group still stick, in contact with one another as they all move on with college and, their sports, their extra activities, except for our main lead from the first movie, Spencer, who feels kind of he's going through a rough patch. School is tough. His work kind of sucks, and he just hasn't been keeping in contact with the others because life has just been getting him down, which is something pretty relatable and what I experience, what we all experience, I think, especially me. Um, so even though they made a vow never to go back, and they even essentially destroyed the game in the previous movie, he kind of puts it back together because he wants to feel like The Rock, and I can't blame him. Who doesn't want to feel like Rock for at least a day or two?
The Rock even wants to feel like The Rock.
Right? I'm pretty sure the only one who can beat up Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson. So he puts the game back together in his moment of sadness, and he gets teleported back in. And his friends quickly follow chase, and with a couple of twists that come in with this story, but his friends also try to help him out too as well. So that's basically our quick little synopsis with a few additions. Of course, we have the D&D. We have Danny DeVito and Danny Glover in this movie now.
D&D
Dynamite. So yeah, and two other little surprises to the movie as well. Let's just real quick, David. Let's just talk about what we enjoyed about this movie. I'm gonna let you go first. What's one thing that you liked about this installment of Jumanji?
Oh, so just like flat out, this movie was a pretty like baseline movie to me. Like there wasn't any particular things that stood out about this movie that I was like, wow, like I really like that, But and at the same time, there was not like a point in the movie where I was like, geez, like this is unbearable. Or I just want it to be over.
Right.
The movie really did like follow the guidelines of the last movie where like they get sucked into the game and they have to like complete this mission in order to get out and all that jazz. Um, but I do remember, I suppose, like in a negative sense, I do remember kind of sitting through the movie the whole time, kind of just being there. I didn't really laugh at a lot. I remember, Preston, I told you like that one part in the movie that I laughed at, and it made me laugh like really hard.
Yes.
But um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, like pretty much, I don't know. There wasn't in the best way possible, in the best way I can say this. There wasn't really a lot that I liked about the movie.
Ooh, so much for starting out on a positive note. Just say it out, like not too much. Okay, and that's fair, man. That's fair. That's how you honestly feel about the movie. That's totally understandable. That's totally understandable. Because I am right there with you. I am right there. I am right there. There's nothing like overtly positive I can say about the movie. Just to be clear, and not to mince words, I do not hate this movie, nor did I feel
No.
offended, or nothing like that. But yeah, there's nothing that, even like a couple of things that I really have to think about that I might like about this movie. I just think the previous movie just did better. So, and I mean, that comes to the jokes, of course, the comedy, to I think even the special effects. There were some shots in this movie that just looked redonkulous. Pretty much everything in this movie I thought where I felt like I was thinking, okay, I think now we're picking up pace. I was just thinking, particularly in the third act of the movie, it's like, man, I could just watch the first one. That would have been fine. So
You're not like, again. You're not. It's not a terrible flick, but you're not missing a lot if you don't see this.
no, no, no. That's a perfect way to put it, my friend. You're not really missing, unless you like really enjoyed the previous one and you just gotta know what happens next. For all two of you out there, make sure go see it. But for pretty much anybody else, I would say, nah, you can. I was trying to stay positive here, but like, yeah, you can miss it. You'll be fine, unless you saw everything else too in the theater right now. I don't think there's really too much reason to see this movie. Something positive. I mean, until it got annoying, I kind of liked Kevin Hart's impersonation of Danny Glover. Like at first,
Danny
I thought
Hart
of Danny Danny Hart,
or Kevin Glover.
Kevin Glover, guys, KG. Yeah, yeah. I thought at the beginning it was pretty funny, like how he was drowning out all his words and talking really slow and paced like. It didn't get annoying, but after like the fourth and fifth time, I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with that. So that was kind of funny. I did like. There is a new addition, a new Avatar character played by Aquafina, a very funny comedian.
Aquafina.
Aquafina. I forget her name in the movie. And looking back at it, it's kind of pretty racist because her avatar is like this, it's supposed to be like this ninja thief, really nimble. Like it's kind of racist.
And Ming Fleetfoot.
Ming, that name is kind of Ming Fleetfoot. Why that Asian boy gotta have Ming Fleetfoot. But I'm not saying she was a standout, but like she fit in with the rest of the avatars and characters pretty well, I think.
I freaking guess so. I mean, like, I'm almost kind of like, why was she even in the movie? Like
I was gonna say that for the negative, but yeah, we can get talking
man.
about it. I was trying to think of something good, man. You're right. There's no reason why. She like structurally speaking to the story, like if Spencer had just, because the thing is, people like Spencer, he had originally ended up in Dr. Xander Bravestone's body, the Rock, but for whatever reason, even they didn't know, like the game had just had this extra avatar. Spencer ended up, because the game was broken, ended up in Ming Fleetfoot's body. But if he had just ended up in Bravestone's body again, the movie wouldn't have changed that much, honestly.
Yeah.
So only for Danny Glover to become a horse at the end, like I don't know why.
Right.
There's no real reason. Right. There's no real reason. Freaking
horses from Harry Potter.
It was. That horse took flight. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because even Nick Jonas came back. Like, it doesn't. There's no reason for that. Totally out of left field. I'm trying to stay positive. But for what it's worth, I think that actress and for what she had to do and did do, I thought she fit in because it could have been a new addition and it could not have worked and just didn't make any sense. And even though it still doesn't kind of make sense, I thought she did. I think she did the best with what
she had.
Yeah. I think they all did. Honestly, I don't blame. This is probably the most positive thing I can say. I think all the actors do a fine job. Like, I don't think anybody intentionally or inherently. There's no Jennifer Lawrence in, the Dark Phoenix. Like, everybody shows up. They're trying. They're trying to do their best. Jack Black, Kevin Hart, Rock, Karen Gillan. But it's just the script. It's just the movie. It just falls too much on the same jokes over and over again. We're in a different body. Oh no, now we're in a different body.
And we're old.
Oh my God, we're old. I can't remember. Oh, that was getting on my nerves. I can't remember. Huh? We're in a video game? What? Like, that
right. That literally went on to like the middle of the movie, pretty much,
Of the movie, dude. Yeah.
It's just like come on, guys. Like, right.
Yeah. Like, they didn't act that bad. before they went into the video game. They were not that bad. Like, I understand them being freaked out and like, is this a video game? But like, to the point where you can't remember shit? Like, no, you weren't that bad. You just had your hip was just off. Like, you Okay.
Dude, if I really like kind of like reach out of the bowels of my heart and like milk something in this movie.
You're gonna have to. I think I'm done.
I do like how the characters Spencer's character in the movie and the Martha, right? Martha's character.
Yeah,
I kind of like the progression of their relationship. Like, like they went from high school to college students, and it's like, like everything was peachy keen. When they went over like the what happened in between the movies. You know, like they said, like they
Mhm.
went on the senior year. He was dating the girl of his dreams. Blah blah blah. Things was great. And
Yeah.
then when they moved to different colleges, you know, it was kind of just
Yeah.
like a realistic like take on like things that actually happen in real life. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
which is not like it's never been portrayed in a movie before, but
Not really.
it was. I kind of just like how you know the movie first made it seem like she broke up with him,
Hmm.
but then it was like, and they kind of like put a little M Night and twisted it, like he actually like broke up with her, and
Yeah.
you know his reasons were kind of trivial because like he saw her social media look like she was having a great time, and
Right.
he was miserable, like kind of like he felt as if she had moved on without him, which
Right.
just too much for his self esteem to bear, you
Yeah.
know. I guess like that's something that it was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting, like how their
Yeah.
relationship out, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, dude, that's a very good point. I actually really like that too, because that's very relatable. That's happened to me. I think that
Hmm.
happens to a lot of us. People move away and things just kind of crumble, not because of any particular person, just because of the situation. Even he said, long distance relationships are hard. Um, and I definitely gotten that feeling. Social media, we look at these
Hmm.
great pictures, these people traveling, we just see their best lives. I
Sure.
just assumed like, well, I'm stuck in my shitty job and struggling in my school.
Right.
I'm not in Paris right now. Like I wish I could do that, but I'm not. So you start doubting yourself. So it totally makes sense why he would want to go back in the game and feel that sense of, power and strength again.
Sure.
Back to the time where, he helped save his friends and, got the girl in the end, so it's totally understandable. Kind of living in the past. I wish the movie, but of course, this movie is so more focused on being funny
Hmm.
and not wanting to focus on that kind of real issue, which I get,
Yeah.
but eh. I know hindsight's 2020, but I wish they would have focused more on that.
Right.
So yeah.
Long distance long distance relationships will kill you. Um,
Mm.
the Naked Brothers band wrote a song about that.
Stop, stop, stop. For anybody who listens to this, if you know who the Naked Brothers band are, please leave a comment below, just to say that you know who they are and you get that reference. Because
One of the greatest bands of the 21st century. You know, just saying.
there's a Jonas brother in this movie, but you had a reference to the Naked Brothers. Yeah, Nick Jonas, you had a reference to. I'm
Hey
sorry,
man,
man.
you put Nick Jonas next to Alex Wolf. I'm looking at Alex Wolf, man. I'm like, he's still got that mole on his face. All right, you
Are you
know,
are you kidding me? Nick Jonas is okay. No hetero, but Nick Jonas is way more attractive than Alex
just
Wolff.
Alex Swift just has that like messy like I don't care kind of vibe. You
He's too much of a pretty boy.
know? I guess so. We're not talking about his brother, that Death Note guy. You know, it's a different story.
I can't keep it straight. I don't pay attention. I watched one episode and I was like, what is this? Okay. Anyway, getting
Sure.
back on. Actually, people leave a comment below saying which is better. Okay. The Naked Brothers band or the Jonas Brothers.
Or
But
Jonas Brothers. Yeah,
the Jonas.
let's get a tally. Let's get a
Let's get a
tally.
tally. Let's get a
Okay, we
tally.
got
Let's review.
Disney Channel band or Nickelodeon band? Who's
Nickelodeon band.
got the money?
You decide. And we will do a review on something they did. I don't know. Anyway, getting back on track. Yeah, I like that part. I wish they would have dived a bit more into it. Um, so yeah, let's go into the negatives, even though I feel like we kind of already did. Just real quick, I just have one main thing. Other than the movie, again, it knocks out these jokes like left and right. Once they get into the game, again, they knock out these jokes and these tropes left and right, and their batting average is not high. I feel like a lot more of the jokes kind of miss than they do succeed. Like you said, you only laughed that out once, and I laughed out at the same part because I knew what a eunuch was. Um, uh, but it was still funny as they kept explaining it. But yeah, the movie is just oddly paced. I remember that second half, like when they met up with Spencer in Aquafina's body. I remember that part just kind of really dragging. Um, the villain in the movie is almost like non-existent. Like he's just this big, gruff, like caveman, Hungarian kind of Game of Thrones reject wannabe. And he's just evil for the sake of being evil. I'm not saying the first villain was memorable either in the previous movie, but at least I felt like he had more screen time and they had like more of a debt against him. This guy is just there just to be the end boss. And that spoiler alert, that quote unquote climactic fight, like at the end with the flying horse and the blimp. I'm just like, what are we doing here? What
Yeah,
are we doing?
like,
Is the horse
right.
flying? Are we fighting at a blimp? Like, I don't. Supposed to
Yeah,
be this triumphant moment for Spencer, but I just didn't feel it. Like, I didn't
yeah.
understand.
Them going on about like the whole like the brothers Kabatic, you
But
know,
listen, that yeah,
like that thing was just like kind of like yeah. I'm laughing about it because I'm thinking about that scene where they're in the elevator,
elevator.
whatever. Super funny, unique scene between
That
between
was.
Jack Black and Kevin Hart there,
Thank
but
God for those two.
oh my. But yeah, like
Yeah.
this guy, the bad guy, whatever his freaking name was,
Don't remember his name. I'm not gonna look it up again. I don't.
yeah, Jurgen the Brutal.
Okay, thank you.
Jurgen the Brutal in this movie, like he's just like yeah, like he's a big bad guy or whatever. But it's almost like you mentioned, man. Like in the first movie, they pay more attention on the bad guy and his like imminent threat to Jumanji, him trying to get that same freaking like the same freaking jewel that they were trying to get that was gonna like end the game and everything like that. But this one kind of didn't have the same feel. It was more like the
No.
guy Jurgen the Brutal was focusing on these two brothers Kabatic, which was
Mhm.
they just kept saying their name over and over again, and
Yeah.
it was more it was a little like like they I don't know there wasn't a lot of attention on this guy. It's almost like you said he didn't even need to be there,
Hmm.
for some of it.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. He was just there to be there, which I felt like half these people were, for the most part. Um. So. So yeah, man. And I thought the ending was kind of stupid. Um. Danny
Hmm.
Glover's trapped in a horse. They go back. They kind of all reconnect. Um. Danny DeVito's going to help run a restaurant now, apparently.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you see
You
some
know,
ostriches.
right? It's actually kind of interesting. I just watched the video before we got on here. I
Hmm.
had no freaking idea that the Nora, the gal from the restaurant who took
Yeah.
over the restaurant, who like bought out the restaurant or whatever in the story, she
Yeah.
is the aunt from the original Jumanji movie.
She
Her name was
is.
Nora. I was like,
Correct.
what?
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. That kind of gave me a little smidge more just appreciation, like for this movie here, for like the for the consistency that they're putting like in the storyline and
Hmm.
everything. With this being the technical what like third installment to the
Yeah.
Jumanji franchise. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty cool like shout out to the
That was
original
a,
film.
it was. Yeah. That was a cool that was a cool little Easter egg.
Hmm.
Um, but for those who didn't see the first one or just weren't looking out for that, it's very missable. And they don't. I don't think they reference like the very first movie in it at all. Like she doesn't mention Alan or the
No.
kids. There's no Snaggletooth Kristen Dunst reference. So I don't. So I don't really
Kristen
understand. Like
Dunst?
like it was nice that Snaggletooth Kristen Dunst. There's no like real reason why she needed to be there.
No,
But it was not. Don't get me wrong. It was the next best thing as opposed to
sure.
making a
Sure. Just like
graphic Robin Williams, I guess. But
right.
but yeah, no, that was a neat little thing. Um,
So
so
I only got like two things like really quick on
I'm
like
done.
the like
You go right ahead. Go right.
on the
Go right ahead.
the whole negative track and and I'm sorry it's going back to our girl Aquafina here.
Aquafina.
Um I really do think that I can kind of see, like, like in the sequel movies, they always want to kind of top the last movie and just do a little more than they did in the movie
Sure.
there.
Yeah, they
I am
have to.
not, yeah, it's just the thing. I
Yeah.
am not familiar with Aquafina's work at
Uh
all.
huh.
Apparently she's a rapper, and she
Uh huh.
played in the Crazy Rich Asians movie
She
that came
did. She did.
ago. But I just think that she didn't for them to pick somebody to come into this sequel here. I feel like she really didn't do a whole lot. She didn't really add a lot to the movie. Like, again, I keep saying, like, a lot of things were kind of just there.
Hmm.
Like, I just didn't really see there wasn't, like, really one point. I guess I can vibe with them putting, again, I can get down with them putting a new character in this movie. Sure, they
Hmm.
want to put the thief in the movie to add to the group in Jumanji, like, that's cool and everything
Sure.
like that. But it's like, it was just like Aquafina though.
Hmm.
Like, I, like, right off the bat, I can't, like, give you, like, a whole lot of other, like, choices for this role. But I just didn't really see, like, a whole lot of just, like, pop in her character, or, like, reason for, like, saying, like, hey, like, let's put Aquafina in this movie, you
Hmm.
know. And
Hmm.
so that's just one thing with that character there.
Yeah. No,
I think,
I agree. Real quick, I agree. I
yeah,
don't. But again, I don't think it's her fault. I just think they just don't
sure.
give her anything to do because I felt like she was trying.
Hmm.
I thought she was a better Danny DeVito impersonator than The Rock was, honestly.
You ain't kidding. You
You know.
ain't kidding. She did great.
Yeah.
She did really good.
Yeah.
Right. I think, like, my biggest thing with
Mm.
this movie, you mentioned on it earlier, is kind of like how the gimmick of this film, with the
Yeah.
body
Uh-huh.
swapping
Yep. I
and
know
thing,
too. Yeah.
and, like, and with Danny Glover and Danny DeVito being in The Rock and Kevin Hart's body, it
Hmm.
just didn't it just didn't do it was a miss for
It
me.
will. It will. Yeah. Same.
It
Same.
was it was a it was a little funny in the beginning, but,
Hmm.
like, ultimately, I really feel like they could have made this movie again without putting Danny DeVito and Danny Glover in this movie. I feel like
Yeah.
they had I don't know, they, for whatever reason, they chose this story to put into elderly people into the game.
Right.
Just add
Right.
to that senior citizen effect. I know that they
Hmm.
are kind of they were kind of meant to be parallels for The Rock and Kevin Hart's character in this movie. You got one tall guy and one short guy, one, like,
Hmm.
funnier guy and one kind of, like, like a straight guy, you know. But I
Hmm.
just I just think they could have made this movie without. I'm sorry, Danny's, but they could have made this movie without
Hmm.
those two guys, and just put
They.
the original cast
Yeah.
back in the movie, and even just kind of had the original cast
Hmm.
swap bodies.
Swap
Like,
bodies. Right.
that would have been enough.
Which they did for a second. Yeah. I think the idea was the fact with Spencer's whole storyline of him like distancing himself from his friends and you know um just that whole idea, and then you see the Dannies as two older people who have gone through that where they've let time pass between them but they're not close anymore. I think that was supposed to be like a parallel between them, but they don't draw enough like attention to it and enough parallels to it. So like I didn't even realize until like after I saw the movie, like that's probably the reason why they decided to put that storyline in here.
Right.
um because like it totally went over my head the first time. I was just like, well, yeah, why are these two in here? Why should I care about their story? um
Mhm.
like why is their story in here? And there were a couple of times where I felt like the movie just kind of like stopped just to address it. Like there were a couple scenes I was like, you could just took that right out of there. One time they were on the camels and like they had like that pissing contest and like The Rock punched Kevin like into a boulder because like they were fighting or
Killed him.
whatever. Killed him for a minute. I'm like, why was that necessary? Like he just lost a life. I don't understand. They just got back on the camels and started moving along anyway. Um,
Right.
you know. So yeah, I just didn't think that necessary. Um, yeah, the movie just relies on too many jokes. A lot of them that happened in the first movie. just The Rock being surprised at his own strength, and um, characters complaining about being in the bodies that they don't want to be in. So yeah, it was just like, yeah, everything that I thought I was afraid of to see in the first movie just happened in this second movie, or third movie. So yeah, all good points. That's pretty much it for me. I will say, Dave and I talked about this earlier. Like, okay, as you guys can probably tell, we are not fans of this movie, but this movie, I just looked it up earlier. I think it made like around $700 million or something like that. Like, it made its budget back and more. So
Yeah.
it made its money. So
It did.
that pretty much guarantees. I won't even say almost. It pretty much guarantees that we're gonna get a sequel.
Yeah.
And David had a good idea. Like, hey, if they're gonna do something, they really need to shake it up. And David had mentioned, much like the first movie, to really make it different and yet pay homage to the first one, is to bring the game out into the real world, like the original board game did. And I think that's, if we have to have a sequel, if Hollywood needs more money, that's what they have to do. I think
Yeah.
that's
And
the right idea.
it was straight up like it wasn't even hinted. It was blatantly portrayed at the end of the movie how
The
there were
ostriches.
there were ostriches that came out of the game into the real world. You
Mhm.
know. Yeah. So I think they're definitely in cahoots right
Mhm.
now about Jumanji part 3, or technically part 4.
So
You know,
before,
there. Right. I think it would be cool, like I told you a while ago, to see like the characters Dr. Bravestone and the gang come out of the game and like mingle with their real life characters, like with Spencer and Martha and
okay,
Fridge and
fridge.
Bethany, working
Mhm.
together with their video game avatars. That'd be pretty cool to see,
That would be pretty cool to see. Yeah, it would be. And really showcase, like, hey, they're all heroes, whether
Mm,
super muscular or just a college kid. I think
right.
that would be interesting. That would create a new dynamic without having to introduce too many new characters for no reason. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I agree. Man. So real quick, my rating for this movie, I'm like really tempted to give it a no. There's
Oof.
like, like I really am, because there's like nothing really redeeming about this movie. Um, and like, dude, we struggled to say anything good about it to begin with. I'm really tempted to give it a no. I might change my mind later, but for now, um, and because I'm in a fairly decent mood, I'm gonna give it a. It's a movie.
Ding
It's a
ding ding
movie.
ding.
It's a movie. There is no reason to rush out and go see it. I think it's a decent, like, hey, I hope it pops up on Netflix in the near future, or Hulu or Amazon Prime or whatever Disney Plus, whatever streaming service it chooses. But yeah, like, if you need something on in the background and just to peek your head in at from time to time, yeah, sure, it's a perfect movie for that. But
Right.
yeah, other than that,
Mhm.
I was on a date. It was a date movie for me, and it was okay. Like, we got to talk through it, through most of it. That made it a bit more bearable. Um, which goes to show how well the movie was keeping our attention.
Sure. Right.
Um, but yeah, man, it's a movie. Like, I only give no's to movies that like really offend me, and that really like just like, why am I here, kind of feeling.
Tune in next week for Doolittle.
You can turn it tomorrow for that shit. Fuck that gorilla. Yeah, I could do little. But luckily, um, even though I've kind of been on a string of bad movies recently, and technically this movie does kind of fall into that, but it's the most bearable of the bad movies I've seen recently. So yeah, I'm just gonna give it. It's a movie. I've seen it. I don't hate myself. I don't need to see it again, and I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm right with you, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's a movie. I really feel like like the last things that we've reviewed, we kind of been on the same page
Yeah.
with them. Like the last things that we went through like with
Tune in
reviewing the
next
full,
week for
full
Spies in
review.
Disguise.
All right, that that is a difference. But uh yeah, like this one like guys, like I really want to emphasize like like it wasn't a bad time. It was just like, oh, it was an okay time. I I don't really think that if I would have saw this movie um at a different setting, I saw this movie by myself. I see pretty much everything by myself nowadays. I'm 27. That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I want to see a movie. I don't have friends. I'm gonna to stay by myself. But maybe if I would have had somebody there, I would have laughed like a bit more,
No.
perhaps.
No. I was
But
there with somebody. No.
yeah, it was a bit bland. It was a bit bland for
Yeah.
the majority, of the right there, and yeah, I still think that the first one did it better.
It did.
Yeah, so yeah, if you like Kevin Hart and The Rock, their collaboration, go check this movie out. But like,
Yeah.
if you don't, you're not gonna have a good time.
You're not. There's nothing in here. There's nothing for. No, this movie has nothing to offer you.
All right.
It
Oh,
doesn't.
oh, really quick.
You sure?
Really quick. You know what? I kind of forgot. They just totally just threw in this movie and
What's
didn't explain was the freaking body changing water of Jumanji.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
didn't they just like leave that out there? Like, hey, like, oh, I fell into this water. We're swapping
We're
bodies
swapping
now.
bodies.
How
Yeah.
convenient because the game is broken.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah, they did.
I think that was something huge in the movie that
It
they
was.
that should have addressed, and I
It
do not believe
was.
it.
It was. We got to see Nebula back black for a second, and yeah, yeah, that did happen. I guess I just never registered it in my head because like I kind of mentally checked out. Like I just didn't. I just didn't care anymore. In fact, I was kind of grateful. Like at the end, well, towards the end, where they finally like went to water again. They got back in their quote unquote right bodies.
Whereas
Because I was like, oh, so that's gonna be more like the first movie now that I liked a lot better. But you're totally right. Yeah, they never explained it. They never explained why the water can do what it's doing. And then once they get into the right bodies, they never question it again. So you're right.
Right.
That is a thing that happens. And
It's like,
yeah,
oh,
that's just lazy writing.
Guns N' Roses is playing. Everything's okay.
Right.
Like, let's get back to how it was.
Yeah, of course. Totally fine. And of course, a horse can be an avatar
Of course.
and have wings, even though every animal in this movie is pretty realistic. Realistic in terms of like, based off of real world animals. But like, the horse has wings. I don't know why. That just rubbed me the wrong way. I mean,
The horse had freaking wings.
it had wings. Spoiler alert: the horse has wings. That's how they kind of end up saving the day. How can a horse be an avatar? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm done. If I keep talking, I might give this movie a no. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Jumanji, the next level. Don't see it. I mean, if you do, fine. I mean, live your life. But I think I can confidently say it's something that we here at the Barely There channel don't recommend to see.
Yeah.
That's just our opinion. Nothing against the director, nothing against The Rock, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, Jack Black, Aquafina, Nick Jonas, everybody else.
Oh yeah, Nick Jonas was in this movie.
He did. He popped up. I knew he would. I knew he would. Yeah, he did. And again, he was fine. He just
Yeah.
really didn't have too much to do,
He didn't.
much like a lot of people. Too much to do. I'm surprised Homeboy decided to help Bethany out and go back in the game. Because he was in there for like decades.
He's a pretty chill dude.
He was. I bet like that was the first thing he thought when he opened that door and saw that girl standing there. God damn it. Like all right. But yeah, that's our review for Jumanji, the next level. David, thank you so much again for joining me here again tonight and doing this review with me.
Well, you know, man, as the Naked Brothers band say.
All right. Thank you guys very much. That's barely there. Keep listening and keep watching.